What's happening, Hardscapers? Today we're joined by four returning guests. We've got another roundtable rally here. We've got Chad from Natural Design Landscapes. Chad, thanks for joining us. We've got Matt from Hardscape Ottawa. We've got Caleb from Almond Landscape, and we've got Craig Scheller of Scheller Outdoor Living. Craig, thanks so much for joining us as well here. And I thought we'd get started here to talk about game plans, goals that you guys got set. I think it's great to be able to kind of talk about our short-term goals, long-term goals, game plans for the year coming up. It especially helps guys just starting out to give them some ideas on what they're going to be doing for the year, what kind of things they can set for themselves in their own business. So I'm just going to lob this one out there to anyone that wants to get started with this short-term goals. What do you guys have in place for this year that you want to be able to accomplish in your business, or at least start to set in place in your business? Anybody want to get started with a short-term goal here?
Survive startup. That's number one goal at the most. That's short-term goal number one.
Yeah, that's a good one. We usually, like last year, we were firing on all cylinders right off the hop, which was pretty great to see. Pretty unusual for us, but we started off with 7 guys and it rolled pretty well through the beginning of the season. Hoping more for the same this year. I got a couple new hires that we sort of have to throw into the mix, and we'll see how that goes. It's going to be interesting.
Do you find your retention is pretty good? Like, do you have returning guys season after season? You
Yeah,
just have to make a couple hires.
Surprisingly, last year we were a 7-piece. 6 of them are coming back. And we have 2 new hires at least to start. I need to be at least 10 guys strong this year, but for some reason, the guys, I guess, didn't mind working, so most of them are coming back, which is nice.
And then just to continue with that, you made a logo change fairly recently.
Just a little just a little tweak. Instead of Natural Design Landscapes in big cursive writing, we're just going to be NDL now. Sort of the mentality behind that is sort of maybe imitate the big guys. There's no phone numbers on the trucks anymore. There's no, if you don't know us, that's completely fine by us. We have a full schedule right now. And I think simple, easy to read, easy to recognize, but not necessarily easy to get a hold of is sort of good for us right now, at least. I mean, there's so much work out there. Honestly, right now, I can't even handle answering the phone. So less is more for now, at least.
Definitely. Caleb, what does surviving the startup look like for you, at least startup for the season?
Yeah, startup for us, we're in this transitional phase of we're building a shop facility at the moment. And so if my wife and I can stay married through that and handle the logistical dilemma we're in of like, do we go ahead and move supplies and bulk materials to our new facility and be split? Now, granted, our shop is fortunately only 3 minutes or 5 down the road from our current rental facility that we rent from. But we've got a few dilemmas there. So I'm probably the worst person to have on a spring planning strategy meeting here this morning, because we're flying by the seat of our pants, frankly, at the moment. Our pole barn builder may start earlier, they may not. And it's just we're in this state of limbo. The year's just going to be weird for us, I think, period. So we've got work booked, all that. That's good. But it's going to be that transitional thing. It's just going to be strange for us. So we're just we've got some goals set and stuff. I'm told anyways, but we're just going to try to navigate through the spring here and see what kind of work. We got a bunch of commercial work bid out, and what I'm afraid is going to happen to us, it's going to get dumped on us all at once. And so I'm kind of like, I was going to ask Chad, I wanted to ask Chad if he fully went more, because I know you were talking about going more commercial work.
Yeah.
Have you totally made that jump?
Our schedule right now is probably 80% commercial, 20% residential. As long as your bank account can float it, I think the commercial work is honestly the better solution for time management and keeping your sanity, at least. I find you deal with more professionals as opposed to homeowners that you have to sort of handhold along the way. Commercial is honestly a dream for me, but I mean, it's not for everyone, right?
Definitely. And Scheller, you're still moving through this winter for the most part, right?
Well, it's challenging. Yes, we had snow Thursday, 6 inches, and then we had warm temperatures over the weekend. It was 70 on Monday. It's 3 degrees right now, I think. So it's crazy, but we're trying to work through it. And what we've been doing is just kind of setting up our project where we can work on the next weather phase. So if it rains, we'll work on the deck. We all have all our base in, so we're actually getting ready to do pavers. Hopefully, gonna start that today. But some of my goals are to not work next winter because it is definitely challenging, and it's it takes. I'm not in position yet with my new company to have the money all saved up to float myself and my guys and my equipment and all that stuff. So we had a good project where we could kind of the client's been very patient with us and understands the weather and but at the same time they're going to be ready to enjoy their patio in early April. So they're really happy about that. And it's a large project, so it's a good winter project. So, but a couple goals I had were unfortunately I'm not going to get a break. Really, we had a couple little times away, but we're going to go right into the next one. So one of the goals was to get to our budget for 2022 in about 4 jobs, and we're about halfway there with 2. So I'm feeling pretty confident in that. So that's what we're really set up for and trying to accomplish is doing 4 or 5 good sized projects and being profitable on those and utilizing the equipment we have. And then we just started renting a shop, so we need to get that set up. It's really hard to find shop space to rent, but got pretty fortunate and we had to jump on it really quick to get it. So sometimes those decisions, you kind of wonder if they were the right ones or not based on budget and all that stuff. But I think it's really going to be helpful for us for storing our materials and buying in bulk and getting pool equipment in and getting, our pipe and plumbing and drainage and all the stuff that we need on hand that's kind of volatile in price right now. So we're working on that. So
definitely. Over to you, Matt. Any short-term goals for the season coming up?
Yeah, I mean, thanks so much to the other guys for going first so that I had a bit of time to think of an answer here. Yeah, no, so, I mean, we have a lot going on here internally. Sort of teamed up with a childhood friend of mine who also had a company on the go, and we're working together, putting our teams together to make it one big super team, a lot more kind of aligned with how Zamco runs, with able to have 8 guys there, but able to have 3 or 4 guys there too, and be flexible like that. He's going to be focused a lot more on the project management portion of it. I'll be sort of dealing with all the other fun stuff that goes on in the office. As well, sort of been a lot more focused on design side of stuff. Over the last year, we've been working with a third-party designer out of the US. Fortunately, the exchange rate and everything kind of makes that a little bit difficult to work together. So actually just starting up sort of my own thing exactly like that here in Canada for Canadian contractors. So been working on that, building out that business. And then, so in terms of how that all sort of relates to goals and stuff is really this year is big focus on systems, processes, and efficiencies. Found ourselves kind of trapped and buried in a couple big jobs last year that didn't need to happen, that with more training probably wouldn't have happened. So we're going to be really, really focused on that. We've got a bunch of returning people, a few new people as well, still looking for a few more new people, and we could probably use a few more than that as well too. Just absolutely inundated with work like everybody, but dealing with the shortages. So focused on trying to bring in more people and make those people really autonomous employees who are accountable and capable.
Definitely. I assume that this year's going to be much like last year, especially with price increases on materials, material shortages at some point during the season. Are you guys going to continue what you did last year in terms of your game plan to kind of manage all of that? Did something work really well last year that you implemented in your business to manage all that? Did something go really wrong that you want to improve this year on managing that? Whether that's price increases, material shortages, or even labor shortages, anything that you kind of want to pick on there in terms of this year, what you want to improve in your business and moving forward?
I could touch on that quick there. One thing that we did last year in an effort to combat the material shortages was stock up on a bunch of special order brick, much of which needed to be paid up front. We didn't get all that brick on the ground last year. As I said, we kind of found ourselves with a couple of jobs that dragged on. So I've been sitting on a bunch of inventory all winter, and it's a lot better in your bank account than it is on pallets, So it's basically, it's not a big deal. We'll get that brick down, and technically we got it at a discounted rate to this year's prices, so that's a good thing. But it is it's tough with the labor shortages now, because you do need to be able to float materials and stuff for what can turn into quite a while if you're not careful. So yeah.
Just to touch on that really quick, Matt, why go special order as opposed to like a very popular stone, because typically special orders kind of that less popular stone? Was it because you had a bunch of jobs lined up for it, so you put in a mass order, or what was the reasoning behind that?
It is, all this brick is sold, it's just not installed and completely paid off yet, basically. It's we kind of designed around a few different products, found stuff kind of, I really had to look forward and see like what's the trend. And it's kind of like those here, at least, I think this was touched on, I forget what I was listening to, another podcast maybe, but it how the trends kind of go from Europe to Montreal, down through Ottawa, which got skipped through Ottawa to Toronto, past Cornwall on the way, and then get down into the States. But definitely the trend here, kind of last year, this year, probably into next year, is moving away from the harsh grays and into the earthy tones. So it's a lot of like the beige creams and chestnut browns and stuff like that, kind of back to those, but then with the smooth modern feel to it. So that's mostly what we have. It was super hot last year, so hot this year still. So it's that's again, it's stuff that's all we designed into projects with it, and it's all sold. It just didn't all get put on the ground. So looking forward to getting that down this spring.
Definitely. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Sorry. Chad.
I think you skip over Cornwall whenever you talk about style and aesthetic as far as the modern stuff goes. It's sort of great for my market. We're still stuck on the slate textures and all the 3 colors in one paver, and so we're sort of almost like 5 years behind the style change, which is great for us for materials, right? Because when all the smooth is sold out, I can still sell slate and all the dark bandings and everything. I think, in my opinion, at least, we're going more monochromatic, one color, not so much borders like maybe a couple of years ago, like the monster 4 different pavers lined up in a row as a border. I think we're coming back to a more muted style, and we can do it all, but it's nice to sort of be left in the old style for us and not have to deal so much with the slate. So we sort of fly right over that product shortage, for the most part, at least over here in my little corner of Ontario.
I definitely agree with the monochromatic thing being really in right now too. It's we actually have a project coming up this year. It's probably almost 3,000 square feet, and it's all grade nickel, like not a single other shade or anything in it included. So it's pretty wild. But then with the way that the house is colored and different materials and wood and stuff going on, it works. So it's nice.
Definitely.
Big thing for us, as far as things we're really going to try to focus on this year, is trying to hit man hours and man hour estimates on projects, and also myself just being more of a realistic estimator for my guys in the field. And that was a challenge last year, was hitting man hours, because we're tracking it more than we ever have. And so we're really trying to, and we're going to be having some pretty serious meetings about trying to hit, doing what we can and figuring out the disconnect of what we expect man hours wise versus what we're actually, achieving. And that's a multi-faceted issue, right? Of like estimating, then you got change orders that are screwy and blow man hours out, and you've got to try to. So we're working out a few things there on our end, but I know that's a big push for us to try to hit man hours realistically. What?
Can we go a bit more depth into this subject?
Yeah, that's a topic I want to spend some
Caleb,
time.
my specific question right now would be, what errors do you feel you were making, or what is it that you feel kind of, obviously you're shouldering part of what's going on there and saying, maybe you're not being realistic, but like, what specifically were the things that you found, you figured it could be done in X amount of hours, but that's just frankly impossible? Like, what are some of the things you encountered, I guess?
I think the biggest thing, and I still think I'm pretty good at this, of disconnecting owner's brain and owner's production versus field production. And our guys are good. Don't get me wrong. They work hard and they do a good job. I just don't think we're maximizing capability of the equipment we have, the trucks that we have, and all that kind of stuff. And so trying to mold that a little bit and make sure we're handling that. We're just trying to get that instilled in the guys more and motivate somehow, and probably mostly going to be financial on production, production benefits, right? Or hitting production goals, so for production bonuses and things like that. And then me still being, and like I said, I really think I'm fairly good about being realistic of what I think it can be done in versus what the crews can get done. But I think I'm still maybe being too aggressive, but also there's things. And it's just what's so bad about our line of work, right? Everything is so freaking custom all the time. Like, it's so hard to get anything, templatized, let's say, to where it's this amount of square footage is always going to be this amount of. And yeah, you can make your numbers fatter and fatter and fatter, but to an extent, I half wonder if we're we're pricing ourselves out of work because I'm just adding so many man hours on the stuff. I think we're becoming like not palatable in our market. I don't know, but we've missed out on a lot of work recently with the bids we're turning in. And that's again, a multifaceted thing of like, well, maybe we're not conveying our value and our quality of work and our reliability. And so those are the internal discussions we're having here at Almond and trying to figure those things out. You just can't raise your price forever to compensate for inefficiency. Right. So those are things we're working out and we'll figure it out, and things are still okay. We had a good year last year, had a good margin, all that stuff, but it could be better. And it has to be, frankly, with what we're paying people and all the rates, everything going up. Like we really have to put the squeeze on productivity. And part of that too, we feel our shop is going to make a big dent in that with having fuel on site and more bulk materials and a dedicated shop loader. Because that's a dilemma, to go back to what we were talking about earlier, of material being at our shop or our rental facility. I've got to have my loader dedicated to the build project at the moment, my full-size loader. And so that's needed to load pallets and material and stuff like that, but I can't have it at my rental yard. And so do I increase my overhead to get another full-size machine to just sit over there? So we're juggling a few things. It's going to be a wacky year for us, I think, until we're settled in, hopefully in 6 months, I'm praying. So yeah, but I think the big thing for us is just talking more and more with the guys and sharing more and more numbers with the guys. I think that's going to be a big thing of seeing like, yeah, cool, we did $1 million, but what I take home and what's left in the company after that, guys, you can't imagine where all that money goes. It's crazy. And so we really just got to just try to convey that to our guys as best we can, and in a way that's a way that they can interpret it and make actual, I guess,
Just a question for there, Caleb. Do you see yourself moving more towards commercial? If I were to tell you that with the commercial work, it's a little easier to make your man hours work.
Sure.
As far, would you use that as more as an avenue to go towards commercial? If you were to, I don't know if I'm explaining myself.
No, I totally get what you're saying. Like the commercial stormwater work we do here, they send us scopes of work. It's awesome, as opposed to like a lot of our smaller projects or a lot of just, again, totally customized stuff. But that commercial stormwater work, yeah, if we could do more of that, I'd be totally into it. I don't know about commercial landscape work. I don't think we're lean and mean enough for that, frankly. I don't know, man. I don't know. I guess it's not really an avenue we've explored. Small commercial stuff, yeah, but some of the big awesome stuff you guys are doing on the commercial sector, I don't think we're organized enough for that, and our guys aren't in that mindset to do that kind of work, I think. So it would be a total I think cultural shift for us as a company, but maybe I'm just but also I think it's part of me, I'm intimidated by it to an extent too. You know what I mean?
Really, eh? I mean,
those commercial contracts are scary, man.
fine. Like I'm more comfortable on a commercial site than I am sometimes with a homeowner.
I can empathize. I get that, man, for sure, because you've got just all the nuance of a homeowner, of all the little things they're worried about. In commercial, man, they just want it done. And that's one thing I've learned with all that stormwater stuff. Pretty much everybody around you that's above, like site superintendents, they just want to be able to sign off that stuff's done. And after that, they don't care. And it doesn't mean you still got to do good quality work, and you still got to be accountable, all that crap, like, but man, just the nitpicking is it just doesn't exist hardly. And that part is a breath of fresh air, going from working on someone's, castle that they've worked their whole life for, kind of thing. Like,
and to me, that's where you're cutting man hour.
Exactly. A lot less emotion, for sure.
Yeah. So you're cutting man hour into the nitpicky stuff, sort of, right? But we can apply to a sod job or a planting job and make twice the margins that we would on a home patio because someone's not happy with the curve or something like that, right?
Caleb, you've spent the time like with a stopwatch with your guys doing projects, right?
Not really, but what we do, but what I do in my production rate books, I will talk to guys when we're doing something special, or anytime we do sod, I do talk to them after the fact, and we talk about how much got put down, and I write down the conditions. So I do have, to an extent, that level of production, but I've never done it when they're like outlaying pavers or anything like that. And it's something we really should do. And we even considered hiring Britt's sister at one point to just sit on a job and just document, because she was on college break or something like it one summer, and just having her do that. And we didn't do it, but that is definitely something I wouldn't be against doing. We need to do some stuff like that.
Well, I guess my thought was that I was under the impression that you had, and my question was more actually along the line of, is there actually value in it, considering the amount of variables with every single project, right? So it's like, what are you even timing? It's like you have to knock out, like, anytime there's a little inefficiency, then like,
right.
So
that's been my hesitation to actually doing that. That's the number one thing, of like, I don't think you get account for all the stuff. So that's why this is a pretty generalized production rate book, but it's saved my tail many times. Like, oh yeah, I forgot because it was July and it was super hot and conditions were horrible, whatever. That book has saved my tail a few times when I'm putting numbers on some stuff.
So one we switched from one software to another this year. That's another thing we're going through right now. But instead of documenting like every little thing where the guys have to clock in and out of base work or lane pavers or whatever, we just went to work area. So like patio, and it's all in there, because it gets really cumbersome to time in and out of all these different functions, especially when we do. It's hard enough on our projects where we do, like, I'll separate a retaining wall, patio, deck, pool, landscape lighting. And I feel like that gives us enough of the general, what does it take to do it? Because then you can, instead of saying you can do, 100 square feet of base and, 1 man hour or whatever it is, you can say we can do, 1 square foot of pavers in 5 man hours total. Like, it's, excavation all the way through to sand, and then it's a little bit easier to manage it and get the production rates a little quicker, I think. But we're on this project where it's like we're working really efficiently on a 70-degree day, and then we're all bundled up on a 20-degree day, and trying to, get our tracks off the ground and, different things like that. So it's a challenge, the project we're on. So
we've never broken things down to that where guys got to clock in each individual task. That's asking a lot. So we generally will break it down of like, look, we expect excavation and base to be in by noon, that kind of, by midday, that kind of stuff. And that's kind of, we hold that template from a 500 square foot patio pretty steady. So, or we hold that production. So you're exactly right, man. Cause it's tough to try to break it down too much, because you'll just drive yourself crazy.
Yeah.
Like you said, Matt, with all the details, just make you nuts. So
and as far as like planning project, like product and all that stuff, our biggest challenge right now is fiberglass pools and getting those in 6 to 8 months. and then getting them. One thing that's happened a couple of different times is I'm taking a smaller deposit now, and just like basically I'm communicating with the customer. You know, we've had a couple instances where our pools have raised in price during the year. Like it happened maybe 3 times last year because of shortages and all this stuff. So we just go to them when that price change happens and say, hey, we have until this date to pay for the pool, or it's going to go up this much. And typically they'll just write us a check and we'll go ahead and pay for the pool. So when it shows up, instead of our typical draw is like, 2 or 3 weeks before the pool shipped, we take payment on the pool, pay for the pool. So that's one thing we're doing a little bit differently. And then anything that, for the most part, we can order materials, have them on our distributor's yard and not have to pay for them until we take them, as long as the order's in before the price increase. So with only having 2 projects booked this year, taking us till August, it's pretty easy to manage all that. But it's still, I have to remember everything, because if we get to the end and I'm like, oh, forgot that. So that's one thing we're trying to do with the shop is, we work with SiteOne quite a bit, and that they do consignments. So we're going to stock our shelves and pay for it as we use it, which is a really nice option. But I'll have to discuss with them on letting us know if there are price increases, or if it makes more sense to just buy the product, depending on what we need. So that's what we're working on there.
Scheller, does that mean that you are going to stay to that 1 crew small size since you're taking on these larger projects and not get too worried about expanding more? Because I know you've put quite a bit of an investment into equipment, into your business as it sits. I think this is your 3rd season now, right?
Well, it's our 2nd full season we're starting. So last year was our first full, and we started in August 2020. So yeah, we're moving fast, but trying to slow down at the same time. So I guess, yes, the answer is yes. I'm really trying to get systems in place, I guess, before I completely expand, because I'm having it's a challenge enough running one project and keeping the equipment there and all that. What we may do is, we've had some people reach out to us about doing just a pool, and and then we're doing this with another landscaper. It just gets challenging where we have to go back and forth a bunch. So like, we had, if we can do a couple of pools where we don't do the full landscape, and like I shared on Caleb's podcast, we may not even share that we did that,
I think that's the coolest thing. Nice. I've told so many people about that, Craig.
So basically I said, if we do a small job or something we don't want people to know about, we just don't share it. We'll just go in, knock it out, and we'll come back out, and what we really want to show is the type of work we want to get. So what we may do is go knock out a pool between a project, if we can do that, or we're bidding a couple of small retaining walls where we can just fill in space if we're waiting on materials or site issues or things like that. So as long as I can manage that with the crew that we have, I don't know if I'm not trying hard enough to hire, or if I'm just a little worried about, like, some of the people I've had really good expectations for that didn't work out, and I'm just trying to. It costs a lot to keep turning that over, and I just as soon run equipment all day, instead of trying to deal with that. So what we may look at is more of an administrative person that can help us part-time with permits and office and all the stuff that I am struggling with to do, and takes time from my family. So that's probably the direction I'm looking more. It just seems like a more logical way to go.
Paper King says you make more money with a pencil than you do a shovel.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Another thing I'd noticed that I'm not sure that landscapers have the heart to just put in the pool, because you make too much of a mess and you don't have the budget to clean it up at the end.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's one thing. That's how we sell jobs, honestly, because the pool companies around here will just put the pool in, and then they're like, hey, what do we do with this pile of dirt? Or you didn't hook up the electrical. And they're like, well, you have to hire an electrician, and you have to haul all this dirt off, and see you later. That's why it was that's why it was half the price of the other guy quoted you. So we go in with the full thing, and we're like, you sign today, and we'll turn it over to you when it's done, and everything will be like this plane right here. So that's a big selling point.
I stopped even quoting just the pool, just because it's like, we're going to clean up, we're going to do all the electrical hookup, we're going to do the gas hookup, and all of a sudden I'm twice as much as the other company, and they just won't even bother looking at my quote. And it's like, well, you're going to have to pay for this stuff more later, but you don't know about that yet. But they didn't want to hear me. So whatever.
Going back to the hiring issue, Matt, you posted that that nice video of recruiting into your business new
I haven't
employees.
posted it yet. I just shared it internally here.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Maybe before this episode airs, but yeah,
You'll
something
have to
else
now.
on there yet.
You also did one last year. How have you gone about putting that out there, and like what avenues do you promote that to get the recruitments, or to get the at least applications in, to then vet the applications?
Yeah, so that is a lot more of, it's all about funnels, everything, right? And we look at the hiring the same as marketing. It's the marketing to the potential employees, the same as marketing to potential customers. The videos are the sort of top end of that funnel, where it's, we're trying to get their attention, trying to bring them in. From there, we have specific on our website. I work with a lot of different forms and stuff like that to automate things in the business. And that's another one of those things where, we go through trying to get information and learn about, who is this person? Are they going to be a good fit with us? Is it worth our time interviewing them? And then also it's, there's a few hoops on their side that they have to jump through in order to be able to apply to work with us. So it's, we try and find out, like, do they actually care? Or are they just trying to get a job? So with all those things, it's frustrating. It's actually really tough to do paid advertising for employment. You're not really allowed to narrow it down. You have to really just blast that out to everybody. Like, realistically, there's not a lot of elderly people who are about to start their hardscaping career. It's not plausible. Like, you're done at 40, not 70. Yeah. So it's at least you're done at 40 working the way that we have for the last 20 years, whenever you're pushing 40 now. But with all this wonderful innovation and machines that we have for employees and things like that, it's a lot better, and we should be able to have more extended careers. But that said, you can't narrow down these ads whatsoever. So that's just basically being shown to everybody, and that's not necessarily a bad thing either, because our potential customers see the links that we go to find great employees and how we treat them, and that's not a bad reflection on the company either. But so that's sort of like a high level of that funnel, and then it brings it down into there's more information if you check out our careers page on our website, talking about how we work it all and blah blah blah. And then if you want to apply, fill out a form there. We basically take everything. We're putting stuff up on Indeed. We're putting stuff on Facebook. We're probably going to start using Kijiji even, just to really get that shotgun blast out there, even though I've avoided it in the past. And open to other avenues if there is other ones that I'm forgetting right now. We're just going to blast that out there as much as possible, and then funnel that into the actual website, where it's it's nice that you clicked a button to apply for us, but now answer some questions and tell us some stuff, and then call us at the time we say, and then we can talk about maybe you come work with this awesome team here.
So it's kind of,
what is Kijiji? Is that a Canadian thing?
Yeah, it's like Craigslist.
It must be. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, Craigslist almost just like disappeared here and just got used for like weird consenting adults. Then so no one really uses that, I don't think. That's maybe one that I was forgetting, and that's why. So yeah.
So you're basically blasting this out to everybody, and then making themselves qualify themselves a little bit by making them do a little bit of work, and then. Like, if you say fill this out, and then they have to call you, is that right? Like, you give them a time and they call, or do you call them? Or
yeah, I mean, I'm always playing with different systems and different ways to encourage and discourage people to contact us on all sides, whether it's, and then we kind of look at them like levers a little bit that can be turned on and off if they're working or not, or if we're seeing good results out of it. Generally the way we'll work it is, get them, if they've sent us a decent looking resume or whatever through Indeed, which is specifically like for job hunting. I'm not sure if that's just a Canadian thing too, who knows?
No, I'm trying that.
If they apply on Indeed, and we there's at least a hope and a prayer in their resume there, then we'll say, okay, hey, cool, thanks for applying. Here's a link, go check it out on our webpage. There's some more information there, fill out our application there. then that application gathers some information from us. We kind of have, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I've built into the background of it that actually punches out a score for them that I just kind of use, but it's it might not make a lot of sense to anybody else, the score. With that, then if I like what I see there, we say, okay, cool, here's a link to book a time to call me. And you're gonna call me. I'm not calling you. Call me. And then that's sort of that one quick loop. If they do that, I'll talk to them for a few minutes. It's really just to get a sense of if they're gonna show up on time or not. That's the trick right there. And then beyond that, I'll have them in person and chat more and get to know them, see if they're gonna be a good fit. And then yeah, from there, it's what we're working on as part of the systems processes efficiencies is our onboarding and then really taking them under the wing for a little bit before just throwing them into the mix.
Yeah, I think the challenge is that I know there's good people out there because I see people hiring and I see people that have good people. So I know they're out there. It's just a matter of how do you find them, or how do you express your culture and your business and the way that you do things and the way that you want to operate a business and the way that you want to be presented to your clients, and make that a favorable place to work and somebody to build something there. And I heard somebody say something about, like, if we're looking at 20 to 30 year olds, they're really not career minded people. They're just looking for a job. But at the same time, you kind of have to use that, I guess. And if that's what's available, then you have to figure out a way to come, to communicate to them or get your message across to them, and then see if it turns into something that they really want to be a part of.
Not to get into too much generational. Oh, sorry, Caleb. Sorry, put your finger up after I started there. But not to get into too much generational theory or whatever about it. But you're kind of right with the 20 to 30 year olds, or maybe a little bit older than 20. They're not necessarily those career-minded people. It's the gig economy lifestyle, right? But I am actually seeing quite a bit of a shift in the next up and coming generation. The kids that are just about to get out of high school, they are looking to work with their hands. They're looking to create things. They're looking to be proud of what they did and get a trophy for it instead of a participation trophy. It's a bit of a different shift, just the same way that every generation just sort of looks at the generation before them and goes, what the heck are you guys doing? Like, look at your funny pants. That's pretty much what they're doing to that last generation of, what are you guys doing? Like, why are you so lazy? Like, maybe get to work kind of thing. So I do have a lot of optimism for the future of the young generation coming into the workforce.
Man, that's cool. That's like that might be the most inspiring thing I've heard all day. That's cool. Something I was listening to the BuildWit podcast, and he was interviewing a guy that runs a big construction company down in Mississippi somewhere, and he was saying their recruiting tool, and this is what the landscape world needs to aspire to, I believe, as far as pay and benefits and culture. But he said the thing they have found to be really beneficial for hiring young people, because again, they're not super career minded, is they literally will show them pictures of their employee parking lot. And it's all guys driving nice lifted 4-wheel drive trucks that are pretty sweet looking because they're making pretty good money working, civil construction and construction. And he said, you would not believe the positive response they get from that. Because those kids don't care about becoming foreman or general manager, project manager in 10 years. It's not where they're, coming out of high school and everything, but like, oh, I can get a lifted GMC out of this job. Like, I can make enough money. And he said that's been a wonderful recruiting tool for them. And maybe, even, in our world, maybe it's like so at our shop, we're going to have our, somewhere in the break room, we're going to have our Y wall, what we're going to call our Y wall. And it's going to be, everybody's going to bring in pictures of like their kids, their trophy deer they shot, their 4-wheelers, whatever. But it's going to be, and now my thing is starting to be like, hey, bring in a picture of a toy that you have you're really proud of, your 4-wheeler, your dirt bike, your side-by-side, whatever. And we're going to begin to spin that into culture too, of like, we pay pretty freaking good. I know we do. I'd say I think, but I know we do. And so I think that's going to be part of our culture of like, hey, you work here and you work here just a little bit of time, even you get some pretty good benefits with us. But it's like, you can have some cool stuff if you're just willing to work for it. And I think that's going to be a way we're going to start to spend company culture, trying to bring in some new help and younger help even. So I thought that was cool. I think that was a neat recruiting tool that those guys were using down there.
That's pretty cool. I got a sort of a different spin on things from my commercial minded side of work. So I have a partner that I hooked up with maybe 5 years ago. And slowly our relationship has been growing. He's got a crew of maybe 8, and I've got a crew of sometimes 7, 8, 9, whatever. And we'll bounce projects off each other where we have a set rate for every one of our guys. And he'll say, we got to get this saw job done tomorrow. Can you spare 4 guys? And so I'll throw 4 guys from my crew on that job, and he'll throw 5 from his, or something like that. Once the hours are all paid for, the profit at the end of everything gets split in half, 50-50, above what the guys' wages are, what our wages are for the team members. But I find that helps us with being able to complete projects more fluidly and not having a break between say a topsoil day and a sod day or something like that. We're going straight from one thing to the other. And it's even transferable through our hardscape jobs where say we got to get this wall up before the pool goes in next week or something like that. So we'll throw a bunch of team members at that. And it really helps our time management. And I mean, it's great for the relationship as well. Like we can take on more between our 2 companies than we ever could alone, and we look like a much bigger force than we are, which I find a lot of GCs like, they like to see that you can come through no matter what, like, because sometimes they're struggling with manpower, and they like to see that, yeah, you're on time, you're still fulfilling your side of the project and making it work for them. It makes them want to work with you next time and again and again and again.
I'm with you, Chad. I think that's really the future of the labor pool, honestly, is because the labor force has been so fractured with so many guys starting their own businesses and companies. Yeah. They're pulling that 3 or 4 key people to their own organization now. Now we've got all these micro crews, let's say. And I think a lot of that, what you're doing, you're going to see a lot of that, a lot more collaboration. And
that's exactly what I'm doing.
The people to figure out the labor game or who's going to win. I mean, and so you can figure out that collaborative stuff where you get 4 or 5 guys that like, they don't want to lay sod 40 hours a week all summer. But it's like, hey, we go bang out a sod job tomorrow, guys. Let's get it done. Like, and the same with the other crew to come lay paver. Like I think that's really the future of labor. I think you're onto something. And
I mean, if you look at our books from the past few years, they've grown exponentially every season. And I sort of attribute it to having a good partner, a good couple partners that you can work with whenever you need to. I think almost everybody should have someone that they can lean on a bit. You make so much more money working with friends or with like-minded individuals than you ever would alone, I think.
How do you, because the thing that can always blow that up, right, is the split the profit, 50 or whatever that, have you had that legally drafted, or we're running on a handshake and we understand the bridge could burn kind of thing, or like,
we're
the sticky
we're rolling on a handshake. I mean, as far as business goes, I've said it before, I'm probably the last person you want to take business advice from.
That's probably me, actually.
But so far, knock on wood, in the last 5 years, it's worked well. We're transparent with everything. Our guys' rates are all written down, so you know that this guy's worth.
So you have communication. That's the big thing.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, there's copies of invoices going back and forth for what materials cost and everything like that. If you're transparent and you're honest, I don't see any reason why a relationship like that couldn't work, as long as no one's greedy, right? Like, as soon as you start trying to hide something, that's where you're going to pay for it.
Yep.
But should it be drafted up? Absolutely. You should want this in writing and
well, you've got stuff in writing, and like you said, the biggest thing is like I think we're going to put our first pull in August, and the deal we've had, it's just no assumptions anywhere between us and our other contractor we're working with, same kind of deal. And it's just every stupid question on borderline offensive to like how I can't imagine you would assume that I would think this or vice versa. I've just thrown everything out there I can possibly think of to the point where it's stupid sometimes. But I just want zero misunderstanding, like you're saying, well, I thought you meant this, or I thought no, we've made a pact, if you will, like we will ask the dumb question or the offensive question every day to make sure every time we have to make sure we don't have some bull crap build up, sometimes. So I think it's doable, man.
Yeah. And I think between the two minds, right? Like he's thinking things you're not thinking, and
right.
You're thinking things he's not thinking. So two really like-minded business brains working together will take you a lot further than one.
Definitely. Going one step a little bit further with kind of this past 10 years or so, this raise in entrepreneurialism, business ownership, and that mindset all around, not so much that, but I guess being able to make your own choices in life or whatnot with this generation. Has anybody kind of included wording into their job descriptions, or at least with like interviews and recruiting, any wording along the lines of appealing to that entrepreneurship, don't know how to say that word properly, but kind of aspect of this generation wanting to own something or wanting to be able to make their own decisions, or whatever that is in their mind that they think entrepreneurialism is and business ownership is? Anybody kind of trying to appeal to this generation to get labor into their business in that sense, whether
Absolutely.
That's wording,
Yeah.
job description, or whatever, Craig?
Absolutely. Yes. Because I struggled working for others, as an entrepreneurial spirit or whatever, just because I always felt trapped and held back, in a position, even if I was getting paid well, but, if I try to take my ideas or take things where I see the company could grow, it was typically shut down, even if there was little cost, because the people I worked for were very closed-minded. So I do this from in all kinds of aspects, and we have a small labor force. We have 2 guys working with us, but I'll take Byron that worked for me. He's worked with me in my previous business, so he's been around for as far as work years, like 6 or 7 years, and I've known him for 10 or 12. So but I'll take equipment purchases to him. I'll take how do you think this will help us, and then we do like we had a job come across the other day. I got a phone call, and he heard me talking on the phone because it was a landscape designer wanting me to come in after the pool and do concrete and landscape. And I'm like, I know the guy, and I'd love to help him out, but it's not what we do, So I hang up the phone, and Byron goes, "This is what we just talked about, like staying in our lane, making sure that we're doing the things that make sense to us." And so I was like, "You're right," because I don't like to say no. I had him reinforce what we've been discussing and the type of jobs we're looking for, type of direction the company's going. And his first job's a firefighter. But he's taking more and more ownership in this position he's working part-time in, because I've been transparent, because we've discussed, and I asked for his ideas and that kind of stuff. So plus it adds a certain level of accountability, for me. So
Hey, Mike, I think part of your question is sort of tough to answer a little bit, and I think yes, a little bit. Of course, you want to be working with subcontractors is a way to sort of work around that as well. But I think that in landscaping, we see a lot more people being entrepreneurial than possibly like the kind of like civil things like Caleb was talking about, where and big part of that reason is likely because you see a bunch of parking lots full of big jacked up trucks there, and you don't see them here. And it sort of ties into something I was speaking with another guy from Ottawa here the other day about, and we kind of were looking at how much we're paying these people, right? And what is that number? And you look at it and you go an entry level position right now, they make $8 an hour more than I did to start, and the same amount actually that I did to be a foreman at one point. But so you look at that and you're like, I pay these guys unreal. Are you kidding me? Like they're completely green and they make more than I ever did knowing exactly like running the whole show. But then if you look at it and say, okay, what was minimum wage whenever, you know, if you were making $10 an hour and minimum wage was $5 an hour, well, you're 2 times minimum wage, right? And that was entry level to go push wheelbarrows and be a meathead. Well, now, you know, minimum wage here in Ontario, it's 15. Paying these guys 20, it's $5 more an hour than minimum wage, same as it was back then. Pretty great deal, but they're only making 1.25 or 1.3% of minimum wage, not 2 times. So like, are they really doing that well? No, like technically, if and these are not actual numbers, these are loose numbers to make the math easy, right? But well, except for the 15, but whatever. But the it basically, like, you know, with all that in mind, you need to kind of look at, like, you know, what is the percentage based off of what minimum wage is compared to, and then making sure that it's in that nice spot. And then also making it a year-round salary. Kind of alluded to that in that video that I sent you guys there, where it's, you know, like, especially here where our winter's like 3-4 months long, like that's like now you're going on employment insurance and making cash doing snow and never getting to spend time with your family and having a messed up sleep schedule and, you know, not thinking about brick. And that's not very productive to the brick installation. So it's, you know, that making it that year-round salary, and then making sure that that salary is aligned with a percentage of minimum wage, rather than, you know, this much dollars more per hour than minimum wage, or, you know, I used to make this much, or whatever you base it off of, and kind of reviewing those numbers. I found that, yeah, maybe my pay structure was a little bit low reviewing that, despite the fact that, yeah, I thought I paid them pretty well too. It was more than I ever made. But yeah, so.
That's a great point.
Sorry, Shell, are you okay?
No, I'm just saying that was a great point. Yeah.
Just to come at it from a different angle, I think we talked about all this entrepreneurial spirit and everyone sort of jumping in with their own little business. I think that works well right now, just because the timing is good, right? Like nobody is short on work right now. So even okay guys think that they can run a successful landscape business. And I think someday there's going to be a wake-up call whenever maybe times aren't so good, and those mediocre
jobs and claim they're yours to try and sell work.
These guys are going to sort of fall to the wayside and sort of realize that my quality isn't cutting it, or maybe I'm not cut out to be a business owner. And if their numbers aren't rock solid, or if their business plan isn't rock solid, they're going to come back, and those will be the guys, hopefully, working for us in the future. Maybe it's just wishful thinking, but the good times don't last, and definitely all businesses don't last if you're not A1.
Yeah. That's when equipment's going to come back down in price, I think. But having said that, guys, thank you so much for joining me here. We could go down a rabbit hole with all this, but we're coming up on our time here. So just want to give each of you some time to let our audience know where they can find you. Chad, let's start with you, Natural Design Landscapes. Where can our audience go find out more about you, what you got going on this season?
The best way to reach me, probably Instagram, the almighty Instagram, Natural Design Landscapes. Feel free to shoot me any questions, anything like that. Pretty easy to talk to. If you're looking to get more into the commercial side of things, or if you are around Eastern Ontario, anywhere between Ottawa and Kingston, and you want to link up, we have tons and tons and tons of work coming up, and we could always use some help with that. So that'd be great.
Perfect. On to Matt, Hardscape Ottawa.
Yeah, Hardscape Ottawa at Instagram, hardscapeottawa.com. This I'll throw it out there right now. We're going to be a lot more active on Instagram this year, now that I'm not trying to do 80 people's jobs. I'm only trying to do 40 people's jobs now that I brought in a partner on this. So it's yeah, we're going to be a lot more posts, a lot more day-to-day stuff, and a lot more finished projects.
Nice. On to Caleb, Almond Landscape.
Hey Mike, thanks for having me on, man. Caleb with Almond Landscape, find us Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all that stuff at Almond Landscape LLC. We're there. Thank you.
And because you didn't say it, Kid Contractor Podcast as well. Go check that out as well. And Craig Scheller, on to Scheller Outdoor Living.
Yep. At Scheller Outdoor Living on Instagram and YouTube, and on Facebook. It's more, that's our more marketing platform. So we don't do a lot of, you know, like hardscape instruction on there and stuff like that, but mostly Instagram and YouTube. And then, yeah, thanks for having me. It's always fun to do these, and hopefully everybody has a great day.